on a real fire. It can't burn you. Think fireside. Chat.
Hey everybody, it is Tracy here from Beyond Obedience, and it is time once again for Fake Fireside Chats with Tracy and Rue. Today we're going to be continuing our discussion about puppies. If you remember from last week, we talked about 3 things that you need to consider before getting a puppy. Things like what kind of a dog you want, really researching your breeds, even if you're planning on adopting a mixed breed, understanding the breeds that are within your dog, the genetic makeup of your dog is really important to make sure you get the right fit for your family. And then we talked about grooming and how sometimes we don't really understand the full extent of what is needed when it comes to grooming the dog, and whether or not you are going to be able to provide that, or if you're going to have to hire a professional. And then finally we talked about the hard one, time. How none of us really have enough time, but nowadays there's so much support out there. There's so many great companies offering services that can maybe help you out, and it's a good idea to research that too before you get your puppy. Now today I'm going to be continuing talking about the one thing that you need to ask yourself before you sign up for that puppy, before you get on that waiting list, before you and your family decide, yes indeed, we want a puppy. And it's a difficult one, so I want you to really take the time to go through this question in full depth, okay? The one question I want you to ask yourself before you get your puppy is simply, why? Why are you getting this puppy? Why are you getting this puppy now? What is the purpose of this puppy? Now, the reason why I want you to take the time to really dig deep into this question is because sometimes we humans get dogs, get puppies, get cats to fill a void that animals simply cannot fill. And when that happens, we put this emotional burden on our dogs that ends up causing stress and anxiety for everybody involved. I'm talking about times when perhaps we've suffered a loss of a dog, a loss of a loved one, and we're looking for something to just help us take that pain away. So it is something that I want you to think about, especially if you're dealing with loss. If you've lost a dog recently, I always caution people now that if you've lost a dog and you're planning on getting a puppy of the same breed, that can be a recipe for disaster. It is a lot of expectation for a puppy to fill that void, especially after you've lost a great dog. And I know this firsthand, because as many of you know, I have a Doberman. He's 13 years old now, but I had Dobermans before. And before Lincoln came along, I had a Doberman, a wonderful Doberman named Frankie. And Frankie was amazing, right? He was a great dog. He was my best friend. And when Frankie turned about 8, we knew he was diagnosed with cardiomegalia, an enlarged heart, something common to Dobermans. And I knew I didn't have a lot of time left with him. And I also knew I didn't want to be without a Doberman. So I actually went and got a puppy. I got Lincoln before Frankie passed away, thinking that I would have maybe a year or a couple years with Frank and Lincoln. And it turned out that I lost Frankie a little bit sooner than I had anticipated. And unfortunately, what happened after that was I went through a pretty bad grieving process when I lost Frank. And even though I had this beautiful, smart, wonderful little Doberman puppy, he wasn't Frank. You know, he wasn't Frankie. And because of that, I didn't really bond with him the way I bond with most of my dogs. And don't get me wrong, I mean, as you know, Lincoln is still with us. He's 13 years old. He's a great dog. He's been a great dog. He's actually been one of the most phenomenal Dobermans I've ever owned. But I don't have, if I can be perfectly honest with you, I don't have the same connection with him as I do with even like dogs like Rue. And I know that is no fault of his. It's not because he was a bad puppy. It was like nothing of that. It was literally just that in that time of my life, I got this puppy and he wasn't frank. So I caution you, if you happen to be grieving, if you happen to have lost a dog recently and you're looking to get another dog, to perhaps take the time to fully grieve, to take the time to be at peace with saying goodbye, and know that before you bring a new puppy into your life, to just make sure that your heart is open and ready for a puppy, because they don't know any different. They'll love you the same. It's just you might not be available to love them back the way that you should. Okay? Anyway, that concludes our episode today of Fake Fireside Chats with Tracy and Rue. Join us next week when we will be continuing our discussion about puppies, things you need to do to prepare for your new puppy. You've made the decision, the puppy's coming home. What do you need to do to prepare for your new arrival? Cheers.
Fake Fireside Chat.
This isn't Fake Fireside anymore.